I'm Davy. I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Movies, where I review the styles of movies that I love, the alternative B-rated cult-style flicks. And it's Halloween season, which means Universal Monster movies. It's one of my favorite things about Halloween, is the Universal Monster movies. It's something I look forward to every Halloween. I get in the mood to watch them, and I do. In the past couple of years, I've reviewed 6 of them. Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy. That was 2 years ago. Last year, The Invisible Man, The Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolfman. Let's get to the next one that surprisingly people have forgot was a part of the Universal Monsters. This one came out in 1943, and it was directed by Arthur Lubin, and written by Samuel Hoffenstein, Eric Taylor, and John Jacobi, of course based on the novel by Gaston Leroux, produced by George Wagner, and made and distributed by Universal Pictures. Ladies and gentlemen, The Phantom of the Opera. The movie opens with our 3 leads. Anatole, whose name I cannot pronounce properly, so get over it, played by Nelson Eddy. And he is making eyes at Christine Dubois, played by Susanna Foster. While Eric Claudin plays the violin, played by Claude Rains. Claude Rains, who was the original Invisible Man, and was also John Talbot, the father of the Wolfman. They used to like to reuse the same actors. If he's not singing about an omelet, then I'm lost. But then Christine is distracted by a man who calls on her, Raoul, the police inspector. She rushes off the stage to meet with him, and he tries to convince her to quit the opera and marry him.
Why weren't you on the stage for the curtain calls, mademoiselle?
Yeah, it turns out in theater that is a big no-no. Bitch! After Christine is reprimanded by the maestro, Claudine is coming in to speak to the maestro and wants to speak to Christine real quick.
You weren't ill, were you? You're not in any trouble.
We find out there's no reason the violinist should have really cared. I mean, she even talks about their relationship as just being mild work acquaintances. Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's cool, just, try to be less of a creeper next time. Now Claudin goes in to meet with the maestro like he was ordered to, and he plays for him because the maestro noticed there was something wrong in the violin section and thinks it was him. Turns out that Claudin hasn't been playing like himself lately because he doesn't know why, but on his left hand his fingers keep going numb, and he's just hoping that eventually it'll pass. The problem is, this is the Paris Opera, which was a big deal. They can't have that. So the maestro has no choice but to let Claudin go.
In appreciation of your long service, I shall arrange with the directors to have a season ticket issued to you.
Was that their half-assed version of workman's comp? But the thing is, he had been working for the Paris Opera for 20 years at that point, so he should have been making really good money and had a lot saved up. Yet when he gets home to his little hovel, he's being harassed by his landlady as she brings him his dinner, saying that he hasn't paid her in weeks.
Either I get my money or out you go.
Did landlords really used to do this, though? Because she looks more like a maid, and I've never, ever had a landlord bring me soup. And yet you want a tip. The next day, Claudine goes to meet with a singing instructor, the top singing instructor, who works with Christine, Signor Ferrari, Bardi, something Italian sounding. The Claudine is there to ask the instructor to keep working with Christine, as her career is really starting to bud now, even though Claudine cannot pay him anymore.
The girl means nothing to me.
But her career means more to me than anything else.
Well, this explains why he has no money, but doesn't explain why he's obsessed with a 19-year-old girl. The instructor, though, is saying, no, if I'm not getting paid, I'm not going to instruct her anymore. But Claudine assures him he has written a concerto, and a very good concerto at that.
Pleyel and Desjardins are certain to publish it, and they'll give me a substantial advance.
And here I thought a concerto was when Edge or Christian laid your face down on a chair and smashed it with another one. But after a while, he goes to that publisher to see if they are going to publish his manuscript.
Perhaps some employee has thrown this one into the wastebasket where it belongs.
Sounds like they didn't like it, dude. Except for they actually did like it. That guy just doesn't like him. Because Claudine now hears that somebody is playing his concerto.
You've stolen my music!
I'm just saying there's probably better ways to go about this. He kills that man in less than a minute, even though it takes way longer than that to choke somebody to death. And his assistant comes in. I don't know, at that moment that felt a little unnecessary. Like it wasn't self-defense, it was like, there you go. He runs off, and then we fast forward to the opera house where they are talking about how they've been noticing things going missing. Like some costumes, and a couple of masks, and some food.
Brilliant stage manager insists there's a malicious ghost prowling about the opera.
Why would a ghost steal pig's feet?
Perhaps a pickled pig's feet will kill him.
It is possible. Ghostbusters using their proton packs and stuff, give him some pig's feet. Then we see Inspector Raoul going to Christine, but not for a pleasant visit. It's about Claudine.
We found something in his room that connects you with him.
Was it her underwear? I bet it was her underwear. Which, if you could steal their underwear back then, that's commitment, because they were like the size of a bodysuit. But actually, what they found is a bust.
So that's what became of it.
It's his? He claims that he made that bust with intention to give to Christine. Sure you did. But then it went missing, which was sad to him as he sculpted it without her posing or anything. He sculpted it from memory.
To see Christine is to carry her image in your heart and mind forever.
Okay, guys, she's pretty, but calm down. After the inspector and Anatole make this incredibly awkward, Anatole gives the inspector a ride, and Christine goes about getting ready for the show.
You're going to be a great and famous singer. I'll help you.
Well, that was creepy. You're in danger, so technically this is a horror film. You need to start running up some stairs. One way the Phantom helps Christine is he tampers with the cup of the female lead that night. The female lead goes over, takes a sip out of her cup, and she realizes this isn't diet! Actually, she fainted from whatever was in there. I just like to believe that she fainted because it wasn't diet. She doesn't die, but she is going to be out for the night. So they have to get her understudy. And wouldn't you know it, her understudy just so happens to be Christine, who goes out there and does an amazing job. I guess. I'm not a big opera fan. But just to warn you, if you're not a big opera fan like me, and you decide to check this out, you're going to experience several very long scenes of this. So just be prepared. You're going to have to sit through that. But even though everybody loved Christine, the woman she replaced, Bianca Rolli, I think, demands that they do not allow her to be mentioned in any critical review. They don't put her in the next opera. They completely act like she didn't do anything. And they are arguing. They don't like this at all.
But you'll either do as I say, or I'll charge both of them with trying to murder me.
So, Phantom, this kind of backfired. But the next night, he has something to say about this.
Christine Dubois will sing tomorrow night. Leave Paris. This is your last warning.
Better listen to him. He's 5'8" and has a very plain-looking mask. She runs over trying to remove his mask. That's not a scream. This is a scream. They don't show it. They just mention later that he did kill both women in that room. And as he runs out of the room, Anatole sees him, chases him up into the rafters even. And while he's chasing him, the Phantom... Now he's just hanging. Luckily for him, he gets a rope and is able to get himself safely to the ground. Unluckily for us, this means we're going to have to hear him sing again. But then he finds out that as he was chasing the Phantom, nobody else saw the Phantom.
I was chasing you.
Well, now take a chance and ask him on a proper date. The next day, they get a note from the Phantom saying that he is demanding that Christine Dubois sings the lead in the next opera. So they get the idea to cast someone else in that lead role, a Madame Lorenzi. They are intentionally disobeying the Phantom as a way to lure him out. Their plan is to flood the opera with police, and they will find him and they will capture him. Anatole has a plan B. he gets a maestro to come in, if the first plan doesn't work, to just be there to play Claudine's concerto. So basically, both of their plans is just piss him the frick off. But their flaw in their plan is that they decided to put on an opera where everybody was going to be wearing masks. Some of them the exact same masks that the Phantom himself is wearing. Because you see, when it comes to doing a sting like this, it's all about the details. And not being stupid. But now the inspector finds his dead policeman and realizes they probably should have picked a better opera. Duh! So now he has to find Claudine.
Sorry.
You should be. He's about to go on stage. He doesn't have time to fix that. But then we see the Phantom's evil plan. He gets a hacksaw, and he starts sawing the chain, holding up a giant chandelier. But that's a little hacksaw, and that is a big, thick chain. Big and thick enough to be holding up that huge chandelier. That's not gonna cut it down. I don't know if any saw is going to cut that down. You might need to weld that one down, or at the very least, you're going to have to go through several hacksaws over the span of several months to cut that chain. But hey, this is back in the day when they didn't really focus on the little details. They just went like, oh yeah, here's how we did it, and everybody just went, alright, fair enough. Even if it wasn't even slightly plausible. Sure. In the midst of the chaos, Christine is there, and she is being escorted out of there.
Are you one of the police?
He's not Christine. He's not. She does eventually realize, though, he's not the police.
Don't be frightened. I'll watch over you. I've always watched over you. Come.
Yeah, if you say that to a girl you hardly know, she's gonna be frightened.
Now you'll sing for me, and I'll play, and we'll be together forever.
Then you'll put the lotion in the basket.
I told them there'd be death and destruction if they didn't let you sing.
Well, at least he is supportive, Christine, and that is an important quality in a man. Upstairs, Anatole has an idea.
Play, maestro.
Not a good one,
My concerto.
but good enough. Because as Claudine starts playing along to his concerto, as Anatole and the inspector are down below the opera, and they hear this.
It sounds in front of us.
Well, you are quite the detective. As he's playing, Christina's humming along, gets in close, which means we're getting to the moment that we all wait for in every Phantom of the Opera. The moment that she's gonna rip off the mask, and we're gonna see his grotesque face! Except one of Claude Rains' demands in playing this role was they couldn't make it too grotesque. Because why would they do that in a horror film? But just then... Why would you do that? Well, I guess it worked out.
The whole place is caving in.
Yeah, so maybe you should have just let him shoot the guy. Because then the bullet would have went into him. Might have gone through, but not that much momentum, and probably wouldn't have caused the entire place to collapse. But they get out.
Who was he?
In the original script, they actually did explain his obsession. The original script, it was written in that he was Christine Dubois' father, who felt bad about the fact that he had abandoned his daughter and his wife to pursue his music career. And once she came along, he decided he had to make up for it by supporting her and became obsessed with her success. But instead they cut all that out and he just seems like a creepy old stalker stalking a 19-year-old. But even though it seems that he was just some old dude that was obsessed with her, she feels pity for him.
His music, his concerto, will remain.
So the glass is half full. Now we fast forward to Christine in her dressing room after a performance. She is now the lead in all the operas. She is very successful. And a little funny side note about this scene. Apparently there was a part where she walks up to the mirror and it shows a little too much cleavage, so the censors almost did not allow this movie to get released. And you think they're bad at censoring things now. And at this point, Raoul and Anatole are a little fed up. They want Christine to decide which one of them she likes. But instead of doing that, she goes outside to meet her adoring public. So they decide to just go have some dinner. So there you have it. That's the classic 1943 monster movie, The Phantom of the Opera. A movie that, like I said, most people don't remember was part of that whole Universal Monster series. Mostly because nowadays when we think Phantom of the Opera, we think like the actual opera, like the one Gerard Butler was in. It had plenty of success, as it had a $1.75 million budget, and between the United States and France, grossed over $3 million in the box office. Which doesn't sound like a huge success, but back then, if it made that much profit, that was a big success. However, the critics didn't really care that much for this one when it first came out. It had mixed reviews, mostly because even by that day's standards, today's standards, none of these monster movies are considered scary. But back then, when they were considered scary, when people were getting frightened watching Frankenstein and Dracula, even then they were watching this one going like, this isn't scary at all. Mainly because, even I will agree, there was too much musical and too much comedy thrown into this one, not focusing very much on the horror. Not only that, but this was technically a remake from the 1925 Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney, the movie that made him famous. Maybe asking why I didn't review that one? It's a silent film. But apparently that one was very scary to people, and they were expecting this one to be kind of like that one, and it wasn't. So where in its newer days, the reviews were very mixed, some liked it, some didn't. Nowadays, as time has gone on, of course, people remembering it nostalgically, it has good reviews, has a good score on Rotten Tomatoes and all that stuff. I would say it's entertaining, but it does feel out of place from the other Universal Monsters. But that being said, this was the only Universal Monster movie that actually received Academy Awards. It received 2. I don't think any of the other ones were even nominated. There was a sequel planned for this one called The Climax, where we were going to find out that he wasn't killed in all that rubble, and they were planning to let it out more about the original idea of him being Christine Dubois' father, but for some reason it just never came to fruition. The son of Lon Chaney Jr., who played the Wolfman in The Wolfman, was actually very upset by this film. He felt slighted that he wasn't cast as the Phantom, like his father, especially considering he was under contract to Universal at the time. But apparently they didn't even consider him for the role. He also went on to resent Claude Rains for his portrayal as the Phantom. But I think you should have shown more respect. I know you had a real father, but he played your father. But I will say it just sounds like sour grapes, and Lon Chaney Jr. was known for having quite a bit of an ego. I didn't see anything wrong with Claude Rains' performance, but I did find it kind of ridiculous that he did have the condition of the face can't look too grotesque. It's the Phantom of the Opera. It's a horror film. Let him go all out. Because instead of looking like a big, huge, grotesque deformity like most Phantom of the Operas, it just looked like he should put some Neosporin on it. It is funny to think, though, that now hardly anybody remembers this as being like a monster movie. They only remember it as the opera done by Andrew Lloyd Webber. But originally, the Phantom of the Opera was a monster movie. Unless you're like a big Universal Monster movie fan, like me, most people never even think of the Phantom of the Opera as one of the Universal Monsters. So let's change that, and let's remember that he is a Universal Monster. So as far as this one goes, it's not even close to being my favorite of the series. But I would not say it's the absolute worst. In my opinion, my least favorite is still The Mummy. But Phantom of the Opera, probably just one notch above it. It just doesn't feel in place with the other monsters. But there is still nostalgia to it. It is actually still a good film. So if you can sit through the 5-10 minute scenes of opera singing, then I do recommend check out the Universal Monster movie, The Phantom of the Opera. So there you have it. That's my movie review this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications for when I post videos. And leave a comment I can respond to in my next comment corner. Tell me what you thought of The Phantom of the Opera in 1943. Tell me if you were like, wait a minute, that was one of the monsters? Love you guys.